brought to you by Brand South Africa.
The 2012 World Economic Forum on Africa is in its third day in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and Bronwyn Nielson caught up with Grant Pattison, CEO of Massmart, and asked about the free movement of capital and goods in Africa.
Well, as you know, the Competition Appeal Court approved the transaction a number of months back. So we have been working hard for about a year now, integrating the two companies. I would say we're about 80% complete. We'll probably be finished up in December this year.
And of course, we want to know now your plans for expansion on the African continent. Are you rolling out aggressively on that front?
Yes, before Walmart became involved, we were rolling out Game and Macro and Builders Warehouse into cities in Africa. We're now starting to think a little bit more about increasing our food presence on the African continent.
Now, one of the key challenges we've been debating here at the World Economic Forum in Addis is obviously the inhibitors to the free movement of capital and the free movement of goods. And this is something that you're going to really come up against over and over as you expand on the continent. Are you already hitting your head against a brick wall in some territories?
Well, no, I think it's quite clear. Some governments have decided to be open to foreign investment, and their business investing is quite easy. They mostly all have investment arms, and you can deal with them, and it's not a difficult business. Really, the risk on capital is about whether or not the country can afford to pay you a dividend and afford to pay you for the stock that you import into that country. So that's the dynamic with capital.
When you decide on establishing in-country, how do you weigh up the risk-reward scenario? Do you look at the politics? Do you look at issues of governance, etc., in-country?
But not so much. You know, we're on the African continent ourselves, so we perhaps have a different perspective than a foreign or international investor.
But when you look at new territories, when you investigate those new territories, what are the criteria?
Mostly what we want to know is, can we complete a commercial transaction, arm's length, with no funny business? We want to come into the country as a real investor, we want to pay our taxes, we want to comply with the law, and we want to be able to have arm's length commercial relationships with suppliers, landlords and service providers. And that's really the test that we apply. And after that, we'll pretty much go anywhere where foreign investment in retail is allowed.
What about property? Because having spoken to a number of retailers on the continent, property seems to be a challenge. How do you overcome that?
Is the limitation property, but for us it's the litmus test of whether a country is ready for us to invest. If you can't go into a country, identify a good piece of land, get a local to invest in that development and then enter into a commercial arm's length lease with us, then that is probably means that the country is not ready for us. So we actually use the property challenge as our litmus test of whether or not a country is ready.
And Grant, just talking about your consumer, the target market in terms of your consumer, are you going for lower LSM right through to higher LSM, or are you going to diversify in terms of your LSM traction, in other words?
We're going to diversify. It's an important part of the Massmart mix. Game at the moment, although it's positioned at the middle market in South Africa, elsewhere in Africa it's actually servicing the upper income market. Builders Warehouse is also servicing the upper income market. And then in our food business, Cambridge, we're going to start looking northwards, which services what I would say people without cars, so lower to middle income people.
And how is Cambridge doing? Because you are rolling out at the moment in South Africa, aren't you? You've already got established retail stores.
We're very pleased with the progress. 3 years ago we had nothing. Now we've got a 5 billion rand, almost 50 store business. So we're very excited about it. We're getting our hands around the challenges. We've learned a few lessons. In particular, fresh is a challenge for us, but we're getting our hands around that and pleased with the progress.
What about additional growth in South Africa? Are you going to be competing aggressively in South Africa, or is your focus really going to be on the continent now?
No, the growth is not country specific. We will expand as fast as we can in every country. South Africa is still a great opportunity, particularly with our food retail business now. Massmart hasn't been in food retail, so that gives us 10 or 15 years of growth in food retail. So South Africa is important, but we'll grow in every country which will let us in.